Hello, everyone. Um, my name is Hugo, as just mentioned to you. I am a product designer here in Canva, and I couldn't be more excited to talk to you today about a topic that is very, very close to my heart. And yeah, and I'm here to talk about how I am out at work and how I'm super proud to be and to work for a company that is authentically inclusive. So there is a lot for us to talk about today. And if I summarize to you, we're going to be talking about three things today. We're going to be talking about diversity, we're going to be talking about inclusion, and we're going to be talking about belonging, the sense of belonging. Um, a friend of mine that actually works in a previous job, a previous company that I worked before Canva, summarized this whole topic in a really nice analogy that I think that like creates a really good idea of like what diversity, inclusion, belonging means and should mean for people. So she suggested that we can think of this topic like a party or like a dinner party. If you think that diversity is about inviting everyone to your party, your friends, your family, your colleagues, your neighbors, everyone, just think like that's the diversity part of it. Then the inclusion part is to make sure that everyone has a seat on the table. As a host, you need to think about the space, the cutlery, the plates, the glasses, everything that one of your guests may need for that dinner. So that's the inclusion part of that. And then finally, the sense of belonging is to make sure that everyone is happy and comfortable while attending your party. And the way that we can do that is sometimes simply asking them, like, "Hey, how are you doing? How are things are going? How is dinner?" That's the sense of belonging that we're talking about. We all have that basic need to belong to one another, to our friends and families, to our communities, and especially to our workplace as well. So, talking about the sense of belonging, outside of the home, the workplace is definitely where individuals feel the strongest sense of belonging. It's where most of us actually spend the majority of our working hours anyway. So this topic is not only important, but it's definitely key for success of any business. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about how in Canva we look at this topic. But as I mentioned before, I'm a product designer myself. And for me, before I go into any discussion, any debate, as a good product designer, I can't think about anything if I don't apply the principles of design thinking. And that's why I like to frame a question or what problem before we start to talk about it. So yeah, the question here, I think, we all know that 2020 has been a crazy year so far. And this is kind of like very, very clear to everyone by now. If you shouldn't, please let me know. I would love to be where you are doing what you're doing. But with the anxiety that we all feel these days everywhere, I think that we have a lot of things to discuss and think about when it comes to diversity and inclusion. So if we think that from a pandemic that has forced each of us like to change and the way we work, the way that we learn, the way that we socialize, to the additional barriers like for the LGBTQ community, especially for those coming from Black, Asian, and minority backgrounds, are facing today with further level of marginalization. And even like more recently as well, we had like with the Black Lives Matter protests, the episodes that like they start in the US and then they spread to other parts of the world. They brought like the whole racial inequality to everyone's radar again. And I think in a really good time for us to debate about that. And then finally, alongside all these disruptions, some countries have even been reporting an increase in the homophobic and transphobic rhetoric. This definitely brings a sense that the world as we know it today is definitely like in a shaky ground. And that's why I think that there is no better time for us to bring this topic to the table, discuss, and most important, to act on it. So yeah, so maybe the question that I said that I'm looking for before we start talking about it is what can we do to ensure that we create a workplace environment that offers peace of mind for now and long into the future, So to ensure that all our people feel confident and comfortable enough to bear their true selves. And that's the question that actually I've been reinforcing every time that we talk about diversity, inclusion, and belonging in Canva. So at Canva, the way that we've been thinking about that this topic is not as simply about ticking off a diversity and inclusion checklist. I think that it goes far beyond that. We want our people to enjoy coming to working or logging on and bringing their best selves to the team. That sense of belonging that I keep mentioning, that I mentioned before, and I will keep mentioning for the entire presentation, is a sense of belonging that it's regardless the age, the race, sexuality, or gender that you or anybody in our community is. So the whole sense of belonging is embedded like in Canva in the way and how we create an authentically inclusive environment. I'm going to talk more about that in the next slides, but it's also embedded in the way that we operate as a work family and how we live out our values. And by now you might say like, hey, Hugo, what do you mean by being authentically inclusive? Well, if we look at the dictionary, authentic means to be genuine, to be sincere, and to be real. This is not a set and forget type of exercise. You can't be authentic just for a minute and then forget about it. We are constantly evolving and ensuring that we walk the talk that we do every day, and we are proactively championing inclusions and building diverse teams. It's the right thing to do. It's very simple. It's a win-win type of deal for everyone. A study even like showed that people are 3.5 times more likely to contribute to their fullest potential when they actually feel that they belong to the environment or the place that they are in. So again, from the company perspective, there's no questions why we are bringing this topic up. And that's, again, why I'm here talking to you and bringing all the things that we're doing inside of Canva around this topic. At Canva, we have a value that we call be a force for good. This means that we don't only want to make the best we can to our people, but we also want to set the example. We want to take the lead to inspire and empower change in our communities. I think that's actually one of the values that I love in Canva. I feel really empowered, like just like by thinking about it, that we can not only do things to help the community inside of Canva, but also to inspire other companies, other organizations around the globe to do either something similar or the same, but that could kind of like create that ripple effect, which I love thinking about that. As a member of the community myself, and from my perspective, I know that a good portion of the LGBTQ plus community has not yet come out at work because of fear, for fear of discrimination, fear of being unwelcome, and the fear of risking potential career opportunities. This is a story that I heard myself from other people in other jobs that I had in the past, from the community in general. And I personally think that this is so sad. It takes a lot of mental energy for somebody to hide who they are. Like it just feels very wrong. And it can in fact lead to serious health issues, which is, again, it's kind of like unacceptable these days. We shouldn't allow this to happen. So this all reinforces the importance of talking about it. And by the way, like you probably already are getting that from my presentation. I'm talking a lot about diversity, inclusion, and sense of belonging. But a lot of the things that you are seeing here is with focus on the LGBTQ plus community. And the reason for that is because I am one of the representatives inside of Canva that work with that community specifically. So I definitely have a little bit more insight into that area of the diversity and inclusion. So yeah, bear with me because I think when there is definitely this field is much bigger than what I'm showing here. So making the changes for inclusion can seem like a huge undertaking, but all it takes, and I can truly believe in that, it's one step to light the journey for growth and change. So I really hope that today I give you an idea of what we are doing in Canva on the inside. And I just want to say that in Canva, we really believe, and that's not only to do with this topic, it's overall with our products, with our company, with the business, that we are just starting doing things. Like we are always at 1% of what we could do. So these are just a few actions and activities that I'm going to share with you. But I really, really feel and I believe that we are in the right direction in Canva. So firstly, one of the things that we do in Canva is we really believe as well in the power of education. So this graphic that you're seeing on the screen now is a graphic that we actually shared with all the employees in a few sessions. We actually continue sharing this. This graph is something that it's something that Canva recommends. Like it's almost kind of like we in a few sessions that we have during the onboarding that I'm going to talk more as well in the next slides. But we reinforce how important is a language. Language is one of the first things that we do to make the place authentically inclusive. It's really important that we educate ourselves on the different categories and terms used within the community. And while the definitions here shared, they are not fully, they don't fully describe the diversity of the LGBTQ spectrum and the other groups, but this gives an insight into the words and meaning to help make conversations with anyone in the community easier and a little bit more comfortable. So a good example that we have here is the term guys, and I feel that probably a lot of you is familiar with the term. Like you go into a room, I've lived like in different countries and different cities, and I feel that this term, I see that like in diverse, like in a lot of cultures, you go into a room and there is a few people, like men, women, and you just refer like, hey guys, that's a very common thing. And in Australia, I feel that like we see that a lot. But we definitely recommend that people start to change that language. It's a small tweak that you can do in your language. So instead of saying like, hey guys, you could say like, hey folks, hey people, hey teammates, hey humans. And from my own experience, I can tell you that at the beginning, this recommendation may sound and feel a little awkward for yourself. But I can't tell you how important that small tweak in your language can make, especially for the LGBTQ community that is either like on the transgender group or that is going through the transition at the moment. These little words are pretty much like part of the identity of these people. And when you say like, hey guys, you may not think about, but it may offend some people. So think about your language. There's a few examples in here. You can definitely, I'm gonna share these later on an article that I have as well. This is just one of the steps that we do in Canva. Onboarding newbies, we have definitely a few sessions that we run for everybody that starts with Canva. There is actually 2 sessions that I really, really like, which is sessions on diversity and inclusion, and as well as unconscious bias session. These training sessions set the tone of Canva's culture and also provides the starters with some clarity as to what is expected of them as members of our team. Why is this important? Well, because we all know that we are all different, and we are also a global company with a never increasing number of personnel. Every single soul in Canva is important, and such as we are respectful of everyone's background and point of view. The other thing is about learning opportunities. We love creating opportunities for all Canva employees to learn a little bit more about everything, if I could describe. But here you see a little poster that we had for an event that we had in July, actually. It was called like the Introduction to Gender and Sexuality. This was a partnership with Minus 18. a organization from Queensland. And it was like an hour workshop, but that create like such a good vibe to the team, where we all talked about like very openly about gender and sexuality. And again, brought knowledge not only for the LGBTQ community within Canva, but for those people who want to be ally and who want to kind of support the community with us. Another side of things that we do in Canva is storytelling. Storytelling is fundamental human experience that unites people, and this is something that we also really believe in Canva. And we strongly encourage forums, from our internal newsletter, team meetings, especially organized fireside chats, where all people can share their stories in a safe place and help educate everyone on a variety of topics. So one of the things that I can mention is a panel discussion that was titled like Out at Work we held recently. It was an event where 4 people of our team shared their experience of coming out and being out in the workplace. It was so useful as a tool to support those within the community, as I mentioned, but as well to the broader employee group. And that's like I want to say like from 2 different angles, 2 different perspectives. Number one being for those who may be struggling with their identity right now, and just being able to hear those stories, those experiences. And then as well for those who can't relate, but want to know how to support their colleagues, their friends, and their families. So this is something that I personally really believe is that when people feel more comfortable sharing their stories, it makes it easier for their peers to understand and connect. So I just want to talk a little bit more about this one. This is something that, again, from personal experience, I feel that every time that I meet, especially members of the LGBTQ community in Canva, sharing my story with those folks and listening to their stories of like how they came out at work and how that unfolded into their professional life, it just creates a sense of connection that I don't even know how to describe. It's something that goes beyond the normal relationship that you have at work. I think that is the moment where you see like, hey, oh, I see you. Oh, I felt what you felt. Or I didn't feel exactly what you felt, but I can imagine. So I really like this idea of like sharing stories and doing a little bit of storytelling in between employees and between groups, because I really believe in the power of that. Other thing that we do in Canva is some workplace entitlements. At Canva, to celebrate the arrival, for example, of a newborn or an adoption, for example, the organization provides like 16 weeks of fully paid and 12 months of unpaid parental leave for the primary caregiver. And then we also offer 4 weeks and 12 months unpaid for the non-primary caregivers. And this is provided regardless of the gender or sexual orientation. I love like how equal that entitlement feels in Canva. We also allow employees to take family and medical leave to care for domestic partners, as well as their children, regardless of biological or adoptive status. And finally, one other entitlement that I personally think that is really important, especially for the LGBTQ community, Canva also provides its employees with counseling and psychotherapy services for those who want or need it. This is something that we do with partners. It's completely detached from the company itself, but it's something that I really appreciate that we have available, considering through the stories that we have of folks that are in the process of coming out, for example. Then we do have some environment optimizations. This graphic that you see here is actually one of my Instagram stories when I joined Canva last year. And this is something that we've done in our new offices, and we definitely recommend other companies to do it. Having a gender inclusive bathroom remove uncomfortable situations that can occur, especially for a colleague who is a transgender or going through the transition period. Above all, like we want each of our current And future employees should know that they are accepted no matter their gender, identity, race, sexuality, or background, and that they are free to be their true selves in the workplace every single day. And one of the things that we don't want is a simple bathroom, if it's a sign, or the actual bathroom experience, to remind them that they are not fully accepted. So this is something that, again, I really encourage people, companies to do. We do have social clubs. Social clubs is another way that Canva strives to heighten our employees' sense of belonging. Being socially connected at work helps buffer against any negative aspects of working, such as the stress of deadlines, for example, and helps work to become a little less work, I would say. It's a little bit more enjoyable, make it a little bit more enjoyable. So personally, being an active part of Canva's LGBTQ+ Pride Club and the Diversity Inclusion Club, it's extremely important to me and is something that I do with a lot of pride. I do have other thing that comes with social clubs, which is like the social events. So I do have a video that I want to show you. I personally love arranging activities to help drive awareness or just to evolve the culture. And these events go like from movie nights to fireside chats. I feel that everyone in Canva loves the opportunity to hang out, regroup, debrief, relax, distress, whatever you call. Yeah, and I feel that like we're quite like this social bunch, I would say. So today I want just to share this little video of one of the events that we had in February to celebrate the Mardi Gras week in Sydney. And yeah, we had our own Canva Pride Week. It was pretty fun. This short video just shows a little bit of what we did that week. So I'm gonna play, and I hope that everything's gonna work. Awesome. Yeah, so as I said, like this was just like a quick glance into of what that event was about and what we did. That we had like a really nice, the panel that I mentioned before was part of this Pride Week. So that were like some of the activities that we are doing in Canva. And you now may ask me about what the external community at Canva is receiving from that. Like, what are we doing for our clients, our users? Do we think about them? I can 100% say yes, we do. And then I want to share a little bit about that as well. So we're going to start with talking about the algorithm, some algorithm improvements that we did in our product. So if you see here on this screenshot, I have the Pexels, one of the sub-brands of Canva. Pexels is an image repository. For the LGBTQ community, we had the honor of permanently revamping the entire Pexels algorithm for our relationship-based search keywords to deliver more diversity across genders and sexualities, given the presence of all types of relationships. So in the past, we use, if you'd like search for romantic couple, as I have it here on the screenshot, you would get the, putting that away, like the man and woman hugging, kissing. But today, if you do that search, you see a way more diversity and inclusion into the search results. This is something that I got super excited about and I'm still excited about. And I feel so happy of seeing things like that happening in Canva, something that is coming. And and that's the kind of thing that I saw this coming from the team that was not even necessarily like pushed by the LGBTQ community within Canva. So that's why I feel that doing all those things that I mentioned before inside of the company bring a lot of results and things like that. Also about the Pride Month campaign, we had this marketing campaign. This included like a little animated Pride video that we shared across social media and email marketing. The interesting part of this one is because when I say marketing campaign, you may think like, yeah, of course, all companies making marketing campaigns. But this one is special. It was tailored to each global market and was extremely well received by a lot of like international communities that we have. So I have the video to show you, but as I said, like it was an entire Pride Month campaign that was firstly done in English, and we're doing that like in Australia, USA, and a few countries in Europe. But then we said like, well, the message is so strong and so important, we should bring that to the other communities where we are present. So you can see even like here, this little animation is in Portuguese. We shared that in Brazil. Yeah, and it was really, really well received by the community over there. So I do have the video as well that I want to share. This is very short, but you can get an idea of like what was the focus of this campaign. Yeah, so this was exactly video that we, as I said, like we localized and translated into diverse languages and share around the globe. With the same campaign, we launched like 200 plus new elements in Canva, which was like all Pride themed, and we're seeing these elements being used in thousands and thousands of designs these days. It's really exciting. It's very fresh. It's very new. It's very trendy. The same way we did with templates, Canva launched like 60 plus new templates, which were Pride themed. And again, we continue seeing that is being used by our community all around the globe. All these templates that you see here, they are in English, but they've been translated and localized as well. We create some learning opportunities for our users as well. We had like a Canva design school session for trans activists from Europe and Asia who are part of the Transgender Europe. So this was a partnership that we had this year. They weren't going to let COVID-19 stop them from advocate for their communities' rights. So we ran with them like a series of online webinars on the basics of graphic design to further empower like the trans activists with a way to amplify their voices through design. So this was a really good session that we had as well in the month of June. We also played a big part on the Canva for nonprofits, where this year, for the first time, we proactively reached out to 400 plus LGBTQ organizations around the world to offer them Canva for nonprofits. And what that means is like Canva has a free product that you all have access and you all probably played with in the past. But we also have a pro product that is a paid product that we actually make that free for nonprofits. So we reach out to these communities offering and reinforcing that they have access, they are entitled, and they should have that tool available for them to help on their communication. And then finally as well, we did what we call like the Pride Magic. This is something really small, but I always feel really good talking and showing that. This little magical moment was created to reinforce that Canva is aware and proud of the LGBTQ community within our user base. And I know that is a very small gesture. And the way that it works is if you do type the word Pride or Pride-related words inside of the Canva editor, you see like the little rainbow animation at the top bar. And as I said, like I know that sometimes it goes unnoticed for a lot of people, but to us, it was a really good remind to, like a really good way to remind our users that we see you. We see you here, and we are excited and grateful for having you with us. So this is something that we had in our product only for the month of June, which was the Pride month, but people loved it, and we still have it there. So I think we may just leave it there now. But it's a really nice sign, a really nice touch, and again, it's just like to show the connection that Canva has with the LGBTQ community around the globe. And then finally, I have a video that I showed a lot of videos to you today, by the way. But this is just a video that I would love to finish my presentation with, actually. And you probably, some of you seen this video already with Jess' presentation, but it's a video that we did around inclusion. It was for an internal event that we had in January. And yeah, I'm gonna play that for you now. You can ignore the very last part, the logo of the event that we had, but the message is the thing that I want you guys to hear from here. So let's see.
Yeah, I felt instantly included and welcome, and as someone who relocated to Sydney from halfway across the world,
I'm proud to work somewhere where I feel there's a lot of people who care and accept each other.
I just remember on my first day at Canva, there was one of the Canva Pride stickers on my desk, and to most people was just a small gesture, but for me it was one less thing I knew I didn't have to worry about in my first week.
On my first day at Canva, everyone gave me a hug. I'm not a hugger, but now I'm a hugger. Since joining Canva, I've felt extremely included in everything. Everyone smiles, everyone says hello. It's such a fantastic place to be.
It's probably one of the most inclusive environments I've ever worked in personally. I can actually focus on building a career here without worrying about job security, like if I'm going to get fired just for being trans.
My favourite thing about Canva is honestly the people. Everybody brings their whole selves to work.
One thing that I like in Canva is the genuine smiles that I get as soon as I walk into the door in the mornings. Those smiles just allow me to be who I am, to bring myself in full to the workplace.
Inclusion for me is about building a sense of belonging. We at Canva are constantly creating an inclusive place where people are bound by our values and a shared sense of purpose. For me, that is belonging at Canva.
All right. That's the very end of my presentation, but I just want to finish with this sentence that I just think a lot about all the time, is that today everything that I talked about and the way that I said like, oh, I do this and I love being part of this, this is something that I always tell friends and colleagues. I do what I do now so that one, in the future, that future generations do not have to justify their existence, and two, everyone feels a sense of everyone feels a sense of belonging regardless of how they might be considered diverse. I really believe that for me today to be here talking to you about what we are doing around diversity, inclusion, and belonging in a company, for example, and for me to be able to come here and say like, I'm out at work, I'm comfortable, I'm proud being out at work. There was a lot of work that was done by a lot of people in the past so that I could, as I said, come here and show myself to that. So I feel that this is just my part, my turn to do it. And that's why I have so much passion and so much involvement with this topic. But yeah, I just want to say again, a big thank you for all of you who hang out like here for this half an hour. I'm definitely open for questions. And I just want to confirm and reinforce what I said at the very beginning. I feel that in Canva, we are just starting this journey. We are starting this journey towards the making the place authentically inclusive. That's the term that we've been using, and I really believe in this. So for a good journey, I also believe that we need really good people. And that's why I guess today I would love to extend this invitation. If you do feel any connection to this, and if you feel any connection with Canva, reach out. I think that's the whole focus of today. We have a lot of roles, open roles, and we need people that will help us to bring us to the next step. We will be forever on the 1% done, but I really hope that you got the sense of and the genuine sense of where we are coming from with this message. And I really hope that either that inspired you or that made you feel a little bit more comfortable with the entire Canva brand, for example. So thank you very much for everyone for watching me. And yeah, we can open questions and answers if anybody has any questions.
Hugo, I just want to say a big thank you for that. I feel like I couldn't wipe my smile off my face, and I have the pleasure of being able to work at Canva. But thank you for sharing with your journey. But yeah, hand over to questions.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm Swiki. I'd like to jump in. And first of all, thank you, Hugo, Carolina, and Jessica. This will be a really memorable presentation for me because my background is in development studies, and I specialized especially in gender-related issues. So it's great to see how a company like Canva is benchmarking to overcome the challenges that that's revolving around gender issues. And you guys have, sorry, I shouldn't use the word guys, but I do.
It's all good. It's
apologize. All good. You have encompassed many issues such as mental illness, women empowerment. These are really big challenges, and it's like taking baby steps if you put it into a broader perspective, because since Canva is used in 180 different countries, and so it's important for younger generations to see that kind of perspective coming from companies. And inclusion, diversity, it is very important. And automatically for people who don't feel connected, they feel connected towards issues, and they see the light at the end of the tunnel. Especially it is true in terms of underdeveloped countries where, like, issues such as gender equality and things like that haven't progressed yet. So thank you so much, guys. It has been a memorable experience for me. So yeah, I'm transitioning into UX experience, user experience from development studies. So it is a big transition for me. And I'd like to hear from Hugo, like what is the relationship of a product designer and user experience designer in the company like Canva?
Sure. First of all, your words just warm my heart. I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
You giving your perception and your reaction to the presentation. I think what makes me feel very good about that is because everything that I presented is so genuine. It's so true to what we do in Canva.
Absolutely, yeah.
So feeling like that you're getting that kind of response, like I'm getting that kind of response from you, it's just like a reinforcement again that what I said before, that we are on the right track, we are on the right direction. So thanks very much for that. I agree with you pretty much like everything that you said. Like it's just a baby step. There is much more for us to do. And again, I also believe that sometimes like changes like this, like that involve like sex, sexuality and gender sometimes we do these activities and all these events and things like, and we don't see the change happening like on the day. And we need to be patient. And I think you touched that when you said like, all this work is so important, perhaps not even to ourselves right now, but to the next generations, to the people that are coming behind us.
Right.
So that is great. Thank you very much for that. And to answer your question, I just want to make sure that I understood the question well. You said like how we see product design and user experience. What's the relation of that in Canva?
Yes, as in like, as a day-to-day experience, how would you interact with user experience designer?
So as I said, like I'm a product designer myself, and in Canva, even like product design and user experience design is these words are using interchangeably. So it's all the product designers are super involved with the experience of the users and experience of like all the clients. So we do have a very close relationship, I want to say, between Canva product designers and product design team and users. We do a lot of calls with users, or we do a lot of sessions with them, if it's surveys, testing sessions, because for us it's really important. Like the entire product that we build is based on making sure that we are empowering our users to design. So like their voice is so important. And from the product design perspective, the product designer in Canva is pretty much like the bridge that connects the user behind the screen to the company and the direction of the company. I think like sometimes I feel that like we do have product managers, we have engineers that work in the product as well.
Yeah.
But they are as well taking care or responsibility of a really other big part of the entire equation. So for example, a product designer is bringing the user voice, while the product manager brings like the business voice into conversations and directions. Because at the end of the day, we need to make sure that whatever we build, whatever we deliver, it has a balance. Sometimes the users want something and the business want to do something. When I say different, it's not even different. It's just like for us to keep the business running, we need to make sure that we are doing what the users want, plus we are catering to make sure that there is growth strategy on top of it. So like all those parts, as I said, like they are parts of an equation, and the product designer in Canva, if I summarize that to you, is the bridge between customer and user and the strategy of the company.
I see. Thanks, Hugo. It answers
no problem.
You answered my question.
I was going to say, like, does that answer your question?
Yes.
I went like all the way around.
Nah.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And thanks again for your response.
Thank you.
Any other question, folks? Happy to hear from anybody.
Also, feel free to use the chat function if you don't want to unmute as well.
Oh yeah, I was going to say, like, you can send questions anonymously, I think. Oh, I just want to see if Alice is still here. Thank you, Alice, for being here with us. So love getting your response as well about the presentation. Anybody else on any other question about diversity, inclusion, sense of belonging in Canva or product design? I can answer for that too. Nope. Silence.
I think, Hugo, if people do have some follow-up questions for you, is it best to connect with you via LinkedIn or email?
Oops, I just saw a question popping.
Oh, yep.
Let me just read that through. What is product design like? I'm a computer science student and I want to go into the UX direction. Was the question about opportunities for international? Okay, computer. Yeah, so I'm gonna answer Tina's question. Thanks, Tina. So what is product design like? And she's They say that I'm a computer science student, and I want to go into UX UI direction. Awesome. So what is product design, if I summarize again, is every product that you look at, if it's a physical or digital product, it's a combination of three things I normally describe like that, is the way that a product looks, how it feels, and how it works. So product designers are always looking to these three things to make a product good, or a product experience good. So in Canva, product designers are really focused on designing the experience that you have with the product. So if you go into canva.com and use like the whole Canva editor to create your presentation, your cards, whatever it is, you will interact with our product, which is all the things that you see on the screen. If it is like the toolbars, if it is the buttons, if it is the options that you get on the screen, all of that is part of our product. And I can 100% confirm to you that behind every single little link that you see on the screen, there was a product designer that touched that and thought about that. Product design overall is a job that requires a lot of user psychology, I want to say. We do a lot of analysis and a lot of like observation with users to understand how users interacting with the tool. And we look for the best ways that we can give them the power that they need to, or that they want to. So there's many ways of doing, like, I could talk about product design forever in here. It's definitely another point that I'm really passionate about. But yeah, product design is, as a professional, like, is the profession that looks into the entire experience, the entire interaction that happens between the user and the product. And I've mentioned already about like the whole observation that we do. One of the other things that we do, which is as well part of this observation, is the testing part. We do a lot of conversations with users where we present some ideas, mocks, prototypes, trying to gauge like what's the interest of the users, like how they would like perceive that new feature, that new functionality that we're planning to give them. But there is also like another part that is not as, the way that I describe is like, it's not as crafty design. It's a lot of like analysis and research. It's a moment where we spend a lot of time just thinking about like, okay, if users want to, I'll give you an example here, like users want to insert an image into their designs, like what's their thought process, like where they would expect. And I can relate all these kind of like, this is just a very quick example of like how product designers think and what they spend their time with, like in a workplace. And that goes, like, as I said, like if you look at a physical product designer, it goes in the same way. Like they're designing, for example, like a kitchen, and then they have the question like, okay, somebody who's going to be in this kitchen, they need to store their food. Where they would store this food? Should I make this a little door in here? Should I make a little drawer in here? That's the same way, like again, the same routes that I'm talking about in here, like the same directions. But yeah, and the focus is all on those 3 points that I mentioned at the beginning. It's about like feeling a product that feels good, that looks good, and most important, that works well. So I hope that I answered your question. And as I said, I could go much further onto that, but it's just an idea of like what product designers do in Canva.
If I could add on top of that.
Please, Caroline.
There is a Canva, I don't know about other companies, but at Canva we have someone called creative technologist.
Yep.
Which is kind of like a merge between programmer and a designer. So they do a lot of experiments, a lot of, sometimes you can't really design an interaction. So if you need to use some code, that's who you would ask. I don't know if you want to add something on top of that, Hugo.
100%. That's a really good point, especially for somebody like Tina that is coming from a science, computer science background. because like computer science, I think like people start to really connect like coding and developing and that kind of craft work. In Canva, we do have a role that is a merge between the two of them, design and engineering, which is what Caroline just said, like the creative technologists. It's a role, a hybrid role that's we kind of like use the two skills, we combine the two skills. So it's definitely something that if you do have interest, if you're doing computer science and you do enjoy the engineering part, but you also want to do a little bit of user experience product design, that would be a really good role that you could look at as well. Any other questions, folks?
I'm happy to jump on with just international students. So a few questions popped through. We do take on international students for our internship program. In the summer, you're allowed to work full time, so you're able to apply for all of those positions. And for our graduates joining us, we do take you on as well. We just can't sponsor that bridging visa. So that would be a process you would have to undergo yourself, but you're still able to apply and we take you on.
Hi, I have two questions, if that's okay to ask.
Please, yeah.
Yeah, so my name is Jesse. My first question comes with the topic that you just present today, and I really like your talk. It's really inspiring. So I graduated from QUT, and I just realized in the school I study, this year they actually designed a new series of toilet for all people. You can just come in and regardless if you're female or male, and that just happened this year. And when it's that kind of toilet, it was a bit shocking at the beginning. I was like, why am I in the same space with a female? But then I realized, what does it matter if we respect each other? It is just a space for us to use. And I just wonder, like, would that be something that Canva also has? Because that would be cool.
Oh my God, like Jesse, you again, it's so good to hear this reaction. It's so good. This realization that you're just talking about, like, yes, like what's the problem with that if we do?
Yeah.
So when I mentioned about the toilet situation or the way that we have that in Canva, it's pretty much like what you're describing. Like, so when the building was actually built, the bathrooms that we have, the toilets that we have in the building, they were building with the how can I say, like with the facilities or devices that are still kind of like, they still have a gender. So if you think about the Victorians versus like the actual toilet, we have those two different types of devices. So in Canva, what we did now is like that sign that I showed there on my slide, they're actually not the final slide, the final signs, like we exchanged that. So in every bathroom, toilet door in Canva today, what you see is actually like, what are the facilities that you find inside of that toilet or in that bathroom? So it's like, there is a little sign, a little icon that shows like, oh, this bathroom has toilets and Victorians, or there's only Victorians. So again, it's very common. You see both like people from all genders that come in and come out from that bathroom, and they can use whatever they feel more comfortable. So to your point, to your question, I'm pretty comfortable and 100% confident to say that yes, if we would have that kind of bathroom that you're describing, if it was like a different bathroom that is made for humans in general, not only like for a specific gender, is definitely something that I could see Canva adopting if we would come to build a new building or putting a new bathroom.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
And my second question would to do with the UX design internship, because I've noticed most of the designers in Canva are either digital designer or product designer. But this UX design internship, it sounds really specific in UX design. And I just wonder, what does the UX design intern do in the intern program? Do they do maybe more relevant to product design, or they are more relevant to user research?
Yeah, I can definitely answer that question. And that's actually a really good question, especially for the students that are here on the call. The projects that interns normally work on the space of the 12 weeks program that we offer them are normally the way that we try to create these projects for them is a project that they can do what we call like the end-to-end flow. So as a product designer, there is a whole product design process that go behind every new feature or functionality that we are building. And there's different phases into that process. And then within each phase, there is even like different activities that you can do. So for example, like when you start with the research, understanding the problem that you're trying to solve, all those things, like there is a few activities that you can do, a few events, a few workshops, a few sessions that you can do with users. So what we try to do is allocate the intern into projects that will require them to go through the entire spectrum, the entire process, so that they can get exposure to the max number of activities that they can within the product design process. The goal is always to give the intern this exposure, this access to the most variety, the biggest variety of activities that they can do within product design. So when you asked me before if it's focused on research, if it's focused on design, what it is, I want to say that it is an end-to-end process. You're probably going to touch everything within the product design process. And it does happen that sometimes a project, as you start to work on it, becomes a little heavier on the research side, or on the sometimes on the design phase, it gets a little bit trickier. If you're designing like very high interactive pieces, you need to spend a little bit more time prototyping and testing, for example. But again, when we are thinking about projects for interns, it's definitely more about the end-to-end flow than anything else.
Okay, that sounds awesome. It sounds like an amazing opportunity. And
Yeah.
I also wonder, I've noticed there are front-end developer or back-end developer grad role, but will there be any product designer grad role in the upcoming months or next year?
Definitely, I think we have, so we do have a UX internship summer program that we run every summer.
Yeah.
The one that we had this year, I need to double check with Jazz and with Van, because I think we closed for this year already, like all the applications for that internship.
Yeah.
But with that said, it's something that we do every year. So next year, we 100% going to have more roles opening for the UX design internship. And I cannot recommend enough for you to apply if you feel interested.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jesse.
Cool.
All right.
I think if there are no other pressing questions, we may pull that to a close, but just one last opportunity, see if anything pops through.
And as you said, Jess, I just want to remind everybody that if they do have other questions that they didn't want to ask in here, or they want to reach out and, again, talk to me, you can easily find me on LinkedIn. I think, fortunately, my name is easy to find there, Hugo Welk. If you put there, I'm pretty sure that it will appear like on top of the list, which is good. And yeah, you can connect with me, can ask me questions. I'm more than happy to answer that for you. And even if I don't know the answer, I'm happy as well to connect you with somebody in Canva that would be able to answer those questions.